When I look back at the time when I started teaching, way back when I started teaching in Zimbabwe, the only thing that I can say is I did not know. And I wish I knew better at that time. And what is it that I want to talk about? I want to talk about those behaviors. You know, those behaviors that you see among students. Most of my friends here, actually we interacted a lot, especially some of you as students and some as colleagues, and um, those things, and especially in education. There are those behaviors that you see among students. Okay, you see the student, they never sit down in class. You see the student, they never stop talking. You see the student, they always want to be alone. See the student, they have all this okay, which we said at that time these were funny behaviors among the students. But then, what were those? What were those things actually? What is the condition? Why were they displaying those certain behaviors that they actually displayed? Okay, so this is what I'm saying. I did not know at that time. As I reflect back and I look back, I can say, okay, this should have been classified as that, and then this should have been classified as that, but there was no way of knowing it. And I'm sure that this is still the case in most schools. I'm talking especially here about the government schools. The government schools, that is where most of the students go to school. I'm not talking about private schools. I've not been to private schools. I didn't go to private schools actually in Zimbabwe, so I'm not sure if they actually have um, these conditions checked, and if there is any assistance they give to students who display these conditions. I'm talking about neurodiversity. There are certain, there are quite a number of them, quite a number of these differences among students that's in learning. Okay, I will talk about this in future videos, but I want to just highlight the broader picture of it, that there are certain neurodiverse conditions among learners that I did not know at the time, and I want to talk about them as I go on. And some of these things, you actually see them in adults. Yes, of course, some of them are hereditary. Some of them you can even see that, oh, this adult is behaving this way because they have this particular condition. Okay, as I've said, I will talk about this as we go on, and then find out, do we have people who actually have who are actually showing that they have this, even without maybe having been checked. um, can we actually identify these behaviors among the adult population, those who grew up maybe with a certain condition? Can it still be seen in them today? Okay, we are going to talk about that as we go on. Now, I want to link this to something else that is, which has been recently, I'll say in the few years back, it's been actually been seen that, okay, this is a condition among the adults, among especially among the aged, that is the elderly. So if you're looking at the elderly, there's what is called dementia. This is something that is recent. I'm talking about Zimbabwean context. It's very recent. In the Western world, it's been there for ages. But looking at the Zimbabwean context, it's something that is very recent, where actually people are now starting to say, okay, so this is dementia. And even then, it is not it is not widely known everywhere else. Let's talk about the rural areas and so on. Those areas, maybe they don't actually know that, okay, this is dementia. But then, looking at that this is only being seen now, but how were people treated before this was known? They were labeled as witches. These are witches that are among us, so they will just exclude them, or they will be very harsh with them, and then they will do all sorts of things to them. And even now, in this day and age, it is still happening. But then, drawing a comparison with that, do we have any conditions among the learners? And those learners have been treated the same way as we have treated the people, the adults with dementia, where we have excluded them and labeled them as, okay, this one is such and such. I will not say those names, because those are some of the names we gave to those students. Okay, so talking about neurodiversity and talking about what happens among the learners, This is what I want to dwell on as I proceed, as I continue to talk about these in these videos. Right. Then what I want to also look at is, now think of a hospital. If you think of a hospital, you have got those nurses, you've got those doctors, and those who are actually looking after the patients. They know what to expect from certain patients with certain conditions. They exactly know what to expect. Think about a teacher who has that kind of knowledge, where they know that this student has this condition and this certain behavior is expected of this student. So it actually makes it easy for this teacher to know how to actually manage the behavior of the student. I think this is one of the things that actually helped me is to settle in the England schools, where you have this file of a student. You exactly know that this student has this condition or this student has these conditions, and how are they assisted. And so when you see those behaviors coming up, you exactly know that this is expected of them, and how do you respond to them. Our response, the olden day response was, okay, punishment. Okay, why is the student behaving like this? Now, I'll talk about examples here of some neurodiverse conditions just broadly. Okay, so you see the student, they never sit down in class. They're always alone. Or the student, they never stop talking. The student, midway in the lesson, they just maybe fall asleep. All those things that happen, what do they actually point at? What do we need to know? Do we need to know anything about it, or we just have to say, okay, you just wake up and do the work? And you see the student, they cannot even shape the letters in their book. They confuse the spelling of some words. What is the condition? What condition are they suffering from? What is it exactly that they need? What help do they need? So these are some of the conditions. There are some of the neurodiverse conditions which, according to my knowledge, looking at this open context, these have not been actually explored to greater detail. There are some organizations that are doing that, but they are very few and they are in some small areas. But looking at the broader picture of all the government schools, it's something that still needs to be done. Because if you want to really help a student to learn, what is called accessible education, you have to consider their conditions. Without knowing their conditions, it is difficult to assist the student. And this is what I wish we can maybe talk about. This is what I wish to talk about as I proceed on with these videos. I will highlight these neurodiverse conditions, and then let's talk about them, because this can also be seen in some adults. Okay, this is an adult, and this is what they are showing. Maybe possibly, because some of these are hereditary. You can see that in your children, and okay, this, how do you then assist, how do you then help your student, your child, as they go through education, because they actually need help, but are we in a position to help them?